An organized crime syndicate is a structured enterprise of gangs, outfits, and families that carry out illegal activities. Throughout the years, they've been involved in everything from bootlegging liquor and running illegal gambling dens to human trafficking and cyber crimes. The Mafia operates a lot differently from the average group of street criminals. After all, they are cunning, intelligent, and have made connections in the right places. If they aren't connected to the higher-ups, they know how to use intimidation tactics in their favor. The Mafia in 2024 isn't nearly as violent or intimidating as it was in the earlier decades. However, these crime syndicates still have a vast global influence that's affecting society. In today's video, we're going to take a look at 10 Mafia syndicates from around the world that are still active today. From crime groups that dominate European countries to ones that are based in Asia, one thing all of these organizations have in common is their global reach. While their criminal activities may have started where they originated from, they have expanded to regions across the world. The Sicilian Mafia, La Cosa Nostra. Let's start our video off with one of the most notorious mafias, La Cosa Nostra. The history of this mafia dates back to the 19th century in Sicily. It began as small groups forming their own secret societies. They were motivated by poverty and a corrupt government. These groups gave them a means of protection, but their criminal activities also proved to be profitable, and eventually the groups started to expand. Immigration brought several mafia members to the U.S. Today, the 5 criminal families that make up Cosa Nostra are all established in New York, but they all have ties and connections that go back to Sicily. In 1930, the Castellamarese War began. This was a bloody power struggle between key players of the mafia in that era. It didn't end until 1931, after the killing of Joe Masseria. He was an early mafia boss who built a powerful empire and was always ahead of his rivals, which he had plenty of. His death signified a key moment in Cosa Nostra's history. After his death, the war ended and the commission was formed. This presented the structure and hierarchy within the mafia. This included the Omerta, a code of loyalty and silence. The commission also announced 5 crime families that would form the Cosa Nostra: Bonanno, Genovese, Gambino, Colombo, and Lucchese. All 5 of these families are still known to be active today. In 2023, Matteo Messina Denaro was arrested after a 30-year manhunt. He was known to be the last remaining godfather of the Cosa Nostra. He was associated with Toto Reina and a key player in the 1992 bombings that killed anti-mafia prosecutors Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino. He died shortly after his arrest, but his capture did raise some questions in the media. Was the Cosa Nostra finally coming to an end, or is there a new era on the rise? Let's take a look. The Gambino family has been making headlines as of recently. In 2023, 10 alleged Gambino family members were arrested for extortion, racketeering, witness retaliation, and other crimes. This launched an investigation that's currently ongoing. Early in April 2024, the FBI searched a New York farm for bodies connected to this crime family. This was the second search within a 5-month period. However, authorities haven't told the public who they are searching for or what they have discovered. Other than these arrests and investigations, the Gambino family has kept their operations out of the public. It is believed that Domenico Cefalu is the current boss since 2011. However, it's unknown who his underboss is. The Genovese family is still active to this day. Known as the most powerful crew in the Cosa Nostra, they still have a stranglehold on the criminal underworld of New York and Sicily. The last known boss of the family was Vincent Gigante, who passed away in 2005. While the family doesn't make an official statement when a new boss steps into power, it is believed that Liborio Bellomo is the current boss. Over more recent years, this crime family has made headlines. Various members have been arrested for extortion crimes. The most recent arrest happened in 2023 when 86-year-old capo Anthony Romanello was sentenced to 40 years behind bars. He was convicted of extortion crimes after punching a steakhouse owner in the jaw. The Bonanno family was once one of the Cosa Nostra families to frequently make headlines, from the assassination of Paul Castellano to the infamous reign of John Gotti. But these days, this family is one of the most secretive. It's believed that they are still deeply involved in the world of drug trafficking and white-collar crimes, but the group has managed to stay out of the public eye. The current boss, Michael Mancuso, is currently in prison for parole violation. When he was released from prison in 2019, it was under the conditions that he was to no longer associate with the mob, but he was busted shortly after his release, mingling with old pals. In more recent years, elder members of the Colombo family have made news headlines. This crime family is still operating in criminal activities like extortion, loan sharking, money laundering, illegal gambling, and other mafia crimes. In 2023, Captain Vincent Ricciardo and several other high-ranking members of the family pled guilty to extortion and other crimes. They were extorting a high-level member of a labor union in Queens. This wasn't the only big bust of the Colombo family. 86-year-old underboss Benjamin Castellazzo was sentenced to 15 months in prison for a money laundering conspiracy, and consigliere Ralph Di Matteo pled guilty to racketeering. So, who is running the Colombo crime family now? They have kept this news under wraps. It's unknown who the official boss is. However, it's strongly believed that Robert D'Onofrio is the acting boss in 2024. Last but not least, we have the Lucchese family. Despite his life sentence in prison, it's believed that Vittorio Amuso is the current boss and Michael DeSantis is the acting boss. But that's all that's known, or at least speculated, about the status of the Lucchese family in 2024. This Cosa Nostra family has been the most successful at staying out of the public eye, the Camorra. Naples underworld. There are several mafia syndicates that have roots traced back to Italy. The Camorra is a crime syndicate that originated in Campania. However, its history is clouded in mystery. There are several theories on how this clan originated, dating from the 15th to the 18th century. While the date of origins is unknown, what is known is that they evolved into a very powerful and sophisticated criminal network. Over the years, the groups in the syndicate have expanded their criminal networks. It's believed that their influence spans throughout Naples and to other European countries and South America. Most of their influence is in the drug trade. However, they have a history of using their influence to make a mark in politics through vote buying and intimidation. People in power have been targets of very brutal crimes, making people fear the Camorra. White-collar crimes have also helped this group take control over businesses. The Camorra is organized into groups known as clans. Each clan has a network in which they operate in. The clan will have a boss and can consist of anywhere from a few to a few hundred members. The exact number of clans and members isn't officially known, but it's believed that there are 111 clans and over 7,000 members. One of the most powerful clans is the Mozzarella clan, with strong control over the Mercato area. The last known leader was Ciro Mozzarella, but he passed in 2019. Although the current leader isn't known, the group still has influence. Another powerful group is the Licciardi clan, operating in remote areas of Naples. This group is involved in drug trafficking, prostitution, smuggling, and other crimes. Maria Licciardi, known as La Madrina and the Little One, is believed to have been running this clan since 1994. However, she was arrested in 2023 and is currently serving a 13-year sentence. Italian law enforcement has made efforts to combat this crime syndicate for decades. While they were successful in bringing down hundreds of members throughout the 1980s and 1990s, the Camorra's influence and power outweighed efforts. Although anti-mafia and law enforcement have no plans of ending their investigations, the Camorra always seems to be one step ahead of them. Ndrangheta, Calabria's silent power. Another one of Italy's most powerful crime syndicates is the Ndrangheta. Their origins can be traced back to Calabria and southern Italy. Now, this crime syndicate may not be as well known as Cosa Nostra or Camorra, but that has worked in its favor. The Ndrangheta has been able to evolve into one of Italy's most powerful mafias through silent moves. This mafia was involved in many criminal activities. The main source of operations was cocaine trafficking and other narcotics. During their peak, this organization was running an estimated $50 billion cocaine trafficking ring. But like most mobsters, they were involved in other activities. This included extortion, white-collar crimes, and murder. Since they were operating discreetly, the syndicate was able to expand its reach on a global scale. It wasn't just areas of Europe that they were dominating. Their operations took them as far as Canada and Australia, among other places. The Ndrangheta is known to have a looser structure of hierarchy than other Italian crime syndicates. Similar to the Camorra, they operate in clans. Each clan usually consists of family members, making them more tight-knit than other mafias. While the Ndrangheta may have grown to be one of Italy's most powerful mafias, they were also involved in one of the biggest modern mafia crackdowns. Synchronized raids throughout Italy, Germany, and Bulgaria brought hundreds of mafia members and associates into justice. In 2021, 207 members were arrested and sentenced to a combined 2,100 years in prison for crimes connected to the syndicate. This was one of the largest mafia trials in decades. During the investigation, 12 clans were connected to Luigi Mancuso, the central figure of the Ndrangheta. The trial began in 2021 and lasted for 2 years. While initially 207 members were arrested, over 330 members were accused and investigated. This trial also included a record-breaking number of female mafia members. Initially, 42 women were accused, but only 39 were arrested. Although who will be in power in 2024 isn't known to the public, Europol hasn't stopped shining a light on this syndicate's world of organized crime. The crime group is believed to be a threat to commercial activities as they have a history of tax defrauding and extortion. The Russian Mafia. From Moscow to the world. The dissolution of the Soviet Union was the beginning of the Russian Mafia's rise to power. At this point in history, the government and economy were in a chaotic state. It basically made room for gangs to take control of their territory. Of course, a gang war erupted over turfs because there were no clear boundaries, but eventually roughly a dozen alliances were formed. Each alliance had a set of smaller gangs that worked under them. This began to establish a sense of hierarchy of the Bratva. Throughout the years, they have evolved to be one of the deadliest and most feared mafias around the world. It's believed that there are 6,000 clans working for this mafia, with nearly 200 of them operating globally. The Bratva has posed a threat throughout Europe and North America. However, this mafia also uses technology to its advantage. Through cybercrime, the clans can extort people worldwide. Throughout more recent years, many big businesses have been hacked by ransomware to scam millions of dollars. Colonial Pipelines was a target of ransomware, with the Russian gang extorting $5 million. JBS Meat Processing was another victim of ransomware, and the company ended up paying out $11 million. The Russian Mafia is believed to have a strong influence over politics and the economy. They have committed several white-collar crimes to extort multi-million-dollar companies. But with all of the crimes they are known to be associated with, this mafia's power and dominance continues to grow. This is because of its relationship with political leaders. There have been many times that Vladimir Putin has been accused of having relationships and connections to key figures in the Russian Mafia, such as notorious wanted mafia boss Semyon Mogilevich. He is currently the most powerful and feared mafia figure in the world. He has a $10 billion net worth and runs a powerful criminal empire. Although he's on the most wanted list, it's believed that Putin is keeping him safe. While the Bratva may be strong and powerful, it hasn't stopped law enforcement from cracking down on them. Over the years, various members of this crime syndicate have been brought to justice. A 4-year investigation brought down 11 mafia members during a raid. It was discovered that they were involved in money laundering. During this investigation, firearms and luxury vehicles were also seized. In 2018, another 18 members went on trial for a money laundering scheme that oversaw $62 million. Semyon Mogilevich is the most feared and powerful Russian mafia boss. Another powerful name from the Bratva is Sergei Mikhailov. He founded a gang in Moscow that is allegedly still involved in activities like money laundering and racketeering. Sergei Mikhailov is currently serving a 22-year sentence for cybercrimes, which came as a shock because he was a cybersecurity chief for Russia's anti-crime unit. It just goes to show how far this mafia can expand its influence. The Yakuza, Japan's criminal elite. The history of the Yakuza dates back to the 1700s. Originally, there were two groups, the Tekiya and the Bakuto. The Tekiya was a group of peddlers who sold stolen goods in the outskirts of Japan. The Bakuto was a group of outcasts involved in gambling. Both groups were known to travel from village to village and eventually merged into one syndicate. During World War II, the Yakuza rose to power. They took advantage of the fallen economy and started selling goods and necessities on the black market that the government was rationing. This had both positive and negative effects on Japan's economy. The communities appreciated the help they received, but it led to corruption and many of the gang's illegal activities that are still dominating the criminal underworld today. While the Yakuza is a criminal organization, it does have strict rules for structure. Every member brought into a Yakuza gang has a specific role. Each gang has a boss known as the Oyabun. The Oyabun will have several Wakagashira under him. These members play a key role in making decisions for the gang. The other members are called shate, and they are responsible for the mob's daily operations. This mafia runs under a code of conduct known as Nikkyo. By following Nikkyo, all members must show loyalty, honor, and respect. While this group started off with peddling and gambling, their criminal operations have greatly expanded. The Yakuza clans are now involved in a variety of illegal trades like drug trafficking, extortion, prostitution, smuggling, and racketeering. They have also been involved in business infiltration schemes with power over many factories, restaurants, and other businesses. The corruption led by the Yakuza has greatly affected Japanese society. They have used their power to infiltrate the world of business, politics, and even the entertainment industry. This syndicate has a reputation for violence and brutality, leaving a wrath of fear. Since key members of the Yakuza have formed connections with the higher-ups in politics, they can get away with crimes unnoticed. These days, the largest and most well-known group in the Yakuza is the Yamaguchi-gumi. The current boss of this clan is Kenichi Shinoda, better known as Shinobu Tsukasa or the Supreme Godfather. He has been the leader of this group for over 20 years. Before this gangster rose to power, he was embroiled in many legal controversies, including spending 13 years in prison for murder. The Mexican drug cartels, narco-trafficking empires. Another active crime syndicate that can't be ignored are the Mexican drug cartels. Not only are they still active, but these cartels are the 5th largest employers in Mexico. While the government and law enforcement have been fighting the war on drugs for over a decade, their efforts aren't strong enough yet to put a stop to this trade. According to an article published by The Guardian in 2023, there are approximately 175,000 members working for these cartels. They also made a strong argument that imprisoning these members isn't enough to put an end to the violence and crimes committed by these cartels. After all, there are over 1.7 million people imprisoned in the country, and these cartels keep expanding their influence. If authorities want to put an end to these crimes, they need to find a way to put a stop to new members from joining. The exact number of Mexican drug cartels isn't known, but BBC claims that there are approximately 150 clans. Each one operates in a specific territory. Some of these groups are more powerful and feared than others. One of the most feared is the Sinaloa cartel. They operate in the Northwest region and have grown to be the largest drug trafficking operation worldwide. This cartel brings in billions of dollars from trafficking marijuana, cocaine, and heroin to Europe, Asia, and the US. The most famous leader of this cartel was Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo, but he's been serving time in prison, and another senior figure in the cartel, Ismael El Mayo Zambada, has taken charge. The most aggressive cartel in the western region is the Jalisco New Generation, most commonly known as CJNG. They have been operating since 2010 and are already worth $20 billion. They deal with synthetic drugs and have connections globally. What makes this group extremely powerful is that the leader is Ruben Osquera, a former police officer. He's one of the most wanted men in Mexico with a $10 million bounty for his capture. In the northeast, we have the Los Zetas cartel. This is one of the most corrupt cartels because it was formed by ex-Special Forces members. It should also be mentioned that the leaders of this cartel used to be part of the Gulf cartel that operates in the same region. After some very brutal and violent clashes, Los Zetas rose as one of the most feared groups. They would use some of the most brutal tactics with their enemies. This included torture, murder, and decapitation. This cartel even expanded its operations, delving into more crimes than just drug trafficking. This could include anything from smuggling illegal cigarettes to human trafficking rings. While this cartel is still operating today, conflicts and legal troubles have weakened its reign of power. The Colombian Cartels, pioneers of the drug trade. When we think of Colombian cartels, the Medellin cartel is the first to come to mind. After all, its leader Pablo Escobar shaped the cocaine trade in Colombia. But after his death in 1993, new cartels emerged to carry on his legacy. While Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel dominated the global cocaine market throughout the 1970s and 1980s, a new crew, the Cali cartel, had the biggest influence throughout the 1990s. This cartel was run by the Rodriguez-Oruela brothers. However, the founders were captured in 1995, and the cartel officially came to an end later in 2006. When it comes to drug trafficking cartels, nowadays the Mexican cartels are dominating the drug trade. While Colombian cartels are still operating, their power has significantly downsized. You see, throughout the decades, these cartels have been involved in several violent events. Back in the day, Pablo Escobar killed multiple members of the Medellin cartel, which caught the attention of law enforcement. In 2006, several factions of the cartel got caught up in a bloody war. Many prominent figures in the cartel ended up dead, while others were arrested. Nowadays, the way these cartels operate is significantly different. There typically isn't one figure that's at the top of the hierarchy. The reason why is that once someone rises to power in the cartel, they immediately get put on law enforcement's watch list. While having no central boss figure helps these operations continue doing business unnoticed, it has also caused a decline in the amount of power and influence they have within the market. And it's not 100% effective to stay off law enforcement's radar. In January 2024, a narco sub was detected and seized in the Pacific Ocean. This 50-foot semi-submersible was carrying more than 1,000 pounds of cocaine, worth an estimated $27 million. The year before, in 2023, a 100-foot narco sub was detected with over 30 tons of drugs. That was the largest narco sub ever discovered by authorities in Colombia to date. While law enforcement has had many success stories taking down operations of the Colombian cartel, not all missions have gone so smoothly. Colombia has been in talks about the idea of legalizing drugs as a way to end cartel violence, but many drugs these cartels deal with aren't safe to be legalized. So there are still many challenges and barriers that the government will need to go through if they want to move forward with this idea. The Triads, China's underground society. The Triads are an underground society of organized crime. Their roots can be traced back to China in the 1600s. At the time, the Qing dynasty was in power. Groups formed to overthrow this dynasty. Eventually, these groups evolved into organized crime operations. The structure of these gangs features three main components. The first is the area boss, who controls and oversees all activities. Next in line are his core members. There are typically 15 to 20 men who are responsible for maintaining control of their area, even if it means getting violent. The third level of these clans is the junior members, typically made up of young teenagers that the core members have recruited. Each member will participate in rituals when they join, such as drinking the blood of a sacrificed animal and reciting vows. Triads have been involved in several factions of organized crime. They control a strong portion of the hard drug trade. This includes opium, methamphetamine, MDMA, and ketamine. They are also involved in counterfeiting items, such as jewelry, designer apparel, and other high-ticket items. While the Triads originated in China, their influence has spread out globally. Now, many of the gangs operate in Hong Kong. They are also present in cities throughout North America, like New York's Chinatown. In 2019, news broke that the Triads had built a pipeline in Vancouver, British Columbia. They used this pipeline to launder $4 billion. They brought in the money through drugs, then had Chinese gamblers use it at the casinos in the city to wash it. The investigation discovered that the year prior, in 2018, they laundered $5.4 billion, and the Triads had been using laundered money to purchase real estate in the city for many years. There are roughly 50 Triad gangs, but there are 4 that have the most influence in the criminal underworld. That's the Chu Chao Group, Wo Group, 14K, and the Big Four. While these gangs have inspired many movies and stories, very little about their modern-day operations is known to the public, such as leaders and key figures. The Albanian Mafia, Balkan power players. One of the more recent criminal syndicates to make our list is the Albanian Mafia, also known as Mafia Shqiptare. They grew to power in the 1990s and continue to engage in criminal activities today. This mafia has been able to expand its operations thanks to its connections to the Ndrangheta. The gangs in this mafia are also believed to have collaborated with other established crime syndicates, like the Camorra, Sicilian Mafia, Moroccan Mafia, Greek Mafia, British firms, and more. These ties have helped the mafia establish territory in Europe. The Albanian Mafia is known for its involvement in trafficking. They traffic everything from drugs to firearms to humans. The cocaine industry is where they have dominated. Now, the Albanian Mafia has done so well because it has become allies with several powerful mafias. But this doesn't mean the mafia doesn't have its fair share of rivals. This mafia took advantage of the market when cocaine was at its lowest price point. They were able to turn this into an empire because they knew exactly where to distribute it, with London and other parts of the UK being the prime areas. Basically, they were able to get the highest quality cocaine at the lowest prices. Rival gangs struggled to compete because they had a lower quality product that cost more money. These gangs had no choice but to purchase it from the Albanians. At this point, it's believed that over 15 gangs make up the Albanian Mafia. Throughout the years, law enforcement has initiated operations to take them down. However, these gangs are quick to adapt to authorities' efforts and are always a step ahead. These gangs are known to use their global reach and violent tactics to prevent disruption of their activities. Some of the most powerful gangs in this mafia are the Bregas crime family, Banda i Lëshnej, and Shaqia. While these mobs are secretive over their operations and who is calling the shots, investigations have uncovered that Amir Bregu has been running the Bregas family and Aldo Berra has been leading Banda i Lëshnej. Both of these bosses are currently spending time in prison. The Brazilian organized crime, favela factions. Last on our list is the Brazilian organized crime syndicate. These gangs originated in the Brazilian favelas, areas where poverty levels were high and organized crime started to breed. There are 2 main gangs that dominate the Brazilian crime scene, Comando Vermelho, aka Red Command, and Primeiro Comando da Capital. aka PCC. Both of these gangs have control over the international drug trade, with cocaine being their main source. They have also been involved in other crimes like extortion and kidnapping. These are two very dangerous gangs, and as they compete over territory and control, it has resulted in some very violent showdowns. Back in 2017, two of the deadliest prison riots broke out between members of both factions. One of the riots left 56 people dead. Authorities can lock up these gangsters, but it won't put an end to their rivalries. Since there are so many members of Brazilian gangs in prison, it has created more problems for law enforcement. The prisons are now recruitment hubs and training centers for these gangs. Red Command and PCC are both known for violent tactics. Some of their turf wars have become so chaotic that innocent civilians got caught in the crossfires. Between 1980 and 2010, there were over 1 million homicides linked to these gangs. Although it's been nearly 15 years since that data was recorded, the gang's activities are still ongoing. Both organizations are believed to have several leaders. However, key leaders on both sides are currently in prison. Andre Durap is one of the most notorious leaders of the PPC. He was arrested in 2023 after being on the run for nearly 3 years. Luis Fernando da Costa is one of the key leaders of the Red Command. He is also serving time for drug trafficking, among other gang-related crimes. This wraps up our video on the 10 active mafias around the globe. From the famous families of La Cosa Nostra to the terrorizing gangs of the Brazilian favelas, each of these crime syndicates has a strict structure and international influence that keeps them operating. Although law enforcement continues to initiate operations to take these crime groups down, the most influential members are always a step ahead, especially since some of them are corrupt cops and government officials. Thank you for staying through to the end of our video. What criminal organization do you think will be the most challenging for authorities to take down? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Want to see more videos like this? Make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe for more.